Sources of revenue. To become durable, a company must derive revenue from what it brings to the market. The corresponding financial flows are usually expressed in terms of turnover. The company then identifies the sources through which it receives such revenue. This detail is expected, particularly when the user is not the payer. Such is the case with the Internet economy. Although some forms of revenue are known in advance, such as television or radio royalties from advertising. Nevertheless, original business models have emerged. Let's take the case of affiliation. For the sake of simplicity, the principle consists in an affiliated website to drive traffic to the affiliating site using strategies such as advertising banners. A dedicated platform manages this traffic and pays the affiliated site on the basis of sales made through this redirection or for the registration of a user to receive a newsletter. Apart from these original types of revenue sources, in most cases, it is the consumer who pays the company for the goods delivered or services rendered. Revenue is directly related to the service performed. A loan, an investment grant, crowdfunding, a capital increase, or a contribution in the associated current account are not sources of revenue. These types of financial flows are not intended to be recurrent, or even less so, to be permanent. Their role is to give an impulse to an activity, but it is the revenue generated by this activity that ensures its durability. In other words, the activity must generate turnover. Of course, a special case arises when the concept of business model is used for projects, resulting in the creation of nonprofit organizations. This may be the case with certain public services or associations. These entities receive certain forms of revenue, such as membership fees, grants related to the volume of activity of the organization, donations or revenue from events planned for donation purposes. Identifying such sources of revenue for nonprofit organizations is as important as it is for private companies. Let's take the case of a business that sells goods in a store. The source of its revenue consists in customers paying for a product purchased within the sales premises. If the company develops an online sales website, a second source of revenue arises from internet sales. The company may also develop a home sales force to constitute a third source of revenue. Certain companies also receive revenue from financial institutions when the customer contracts a loan through them to pay for the goods. Finally, the various external distribution channels mobilized by the value manufacturing component are also sources of revenue. Regarding these distribution networks, it is possible to specify the sources of revenue by classifying them according to the type of distribution. Specialty stores, supermarkets, marketplace, etc. This classification is relevant because sales prices and running costs may differ from one type of distribution to another. Then there are classifications that focus, for example, on the different categories of products, services, or activities. In general, a computer company thus distinguishes its hardware sales from its software development, training activities, or its troubleshooting procedures. A wine and spirits company distinguishes its activities as wine trader and wine producer. Within its production, it can also distinguish the sale of its great wine from the sale of bulk wine, especially because these activities correspond to different business strategies. It is also possible to classify sources of revenue according to regional or international areas. These classifications are very useful for analyzing sales. Sources of revenue are often assessed together with volume of revenue, which the following chapter discusses. It gives a vision of which proportion of the revenue comes from which geographical area and from which type of product. This type of analysis requires consideration of other components of the business model. Indeed, when establishing a provisional budget for setting up a business, the sources and volume of revenue are evaluated both in relation to the marketing study of the value proposition component and to the estimated production capacity of the value manufacturing component. One way of understanding the links between the various components of a business model to design a better economic model is to observe the remarkable past cases that were either innovative or transferred or combined existing models.